right. Welcome, everyone. We are going to roll through an agenda. The updates from National today are many, so they will take a little bit of time, but hang in there with us on some of these. And feel free to ask questions throughout. Um, but I decided to start with the bad news first.
Mm,
Um, so we'll start with some of the bad news and end with some of the kind of resources for what you can do because there are a lot of updates that are a little intense. So these are things that are happening at the federal level, and then I tried to include also how AAUW National is responding to them. Um, one of the big things is, as with our interest, of course, in economic security for women, is what's happening at EEOC, right? So the federal agency that basically was created in the wake of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to help kind of enforce employment anti-discrimination. So, what has happened is the EEOC has been changed rather substantially in the last year. It's now understaffed. The agency head that was there under Biden was removed. There's a new agency head who's very aligned with the current administration. So, what we've seen happen is a lot of kind of guidance about workplace harassment being rescinded. That includes the treatment of transgender workers in the workplace. That includes a lot of bathroom bills. Their guidance was released in March. That guidance is completely at odds with current Supreme Court precedent, but that doesn't stop them. There's also the right, in addition to trans rights, so anything that's dealing with gender as a category is under attack right now. The Pregnant Workers Fairness Act that passed a few years ago might also be challenged. Um, and they're now actively seeking cases from cis het white men who feel as if they're being discriminated against on the basis of race, gender, and sexuality at work. And we saw a case actually of a cisgender heterosexual white woman last year in go to the Supreme Court in Ames versus Ohio. So this is something that we see happening. That was a an anti LGB case and a claim of workplace harassment on the basis of sexuality because she was heterosexual. So we see these cases coming up. Cishet is cisgender heterosexual, so it just means cisgender is not transgender. Heterosexual is gay, lesbian, or bisexual. So those are the cases that are being sought out, right? Basically, heterosexual, non-transgender white men who feel if they're being discriminated against at work. Um, the new regulations, the because the administration is very focused on deregulation, it seems like unless new regulations deal with um, you know, attacking transgender people or pregnant workers, there's a lot more deregulation than regulation that is happening. And any new regulation is seen as business killing. So we're just gonna start with the easy stuff. Um, so also at EEOC, we're going to see other changes coming on the employment side. We're going to talk about the pay equity report. But if you have any questions about pay equity, then you're welcome to reach out to us or to reach out to National if and when you see other kinds of guidance coming out of the federal government of EEOC. A few other points. The data collection that the EEOC has done and actually has required for a long time is stopping or has stopped. One thing that was issued every year is called the EEO1 report, and that was a report that was about workplace diversity and the diversification of workplaces. So that's something that for a long time, that diversity professionals and others relied on to make sure that businesses were diversifying actively. So EEO1 is probably going to go away. Um, and a lot of the tactics that are being used are kind of in response to the fact that over the last year, a lot of the anti-DEI kinds of provisions and things that have tried to change, right, the understanding of discrimination have been losing in the courts. So there's been a chilling effect on DEI, and one of the tactics that they use is going after folks with lawsuits, even when they can't win. And then, right, there's a lot of media reporting about how, right, the government is suing Coca-Cola, right? Um, so this is just a, right, know that that is part of the tactic is to kind of like spray that media out there about these businesses that are under attack, but it's balancing, right, the need to know with the fact that the more that those reports go out and out and out, the more it also has a chilling effect on businesses and organizations because people then become scared that they too will be, you know, legally attacked, even if there's no grounds for that attack at all. So that's part of the strategy. Um, I also put up here because of the attack on right, trans workers' rights, a good fact sheet about trans workers' access to bathrooms. And I can talk about that all day. So, um, any questions about that? The first slide of very happy news.
My first question is what does EEOC mean? Is employment? What are the initials?
Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Um, I have some contacts within EEOC, and even though this is very bad news, I do want everybody to realize that some equal pay cases will go forward, and also that they are interested, even though they may attack the Pregnancy Fairness Act, they are interested in pursuing protections for pregnant women because, of course, they want everybody to be pregnant. Um, and I just want people to know that there are still employees within these government entities that are working very hard to support our values despite the environment.
Thanks, Peg. Myra?
I have a question. Can a state try to override this because we're states, or you think it'll be set in stone that it'll be everybody? You
Now,
know,
the California Labor Commission and the California Office of Civil Rights often takes action.
good,
And many times you can not go to the EEOC, but go to the California Labor Commission or the Office of Civil Rights, and they do take courses and they are defending our values.
good.
Yep. And if you want more, you can read more about some of the stuff that's in CCAMP, because that's also about expanding workplace protections in California. This is really This is at the federal level, and the EEOC, after about 1972, 1973, often helps, litigants like through the cases. And so this is just kind of a shift both in the understaffing and in the cases that they will choose to take up
Yeah.
to move through the system. right. Um, Next slide of horrors. We should have put like something, like some imagery on here or something. So the 2027 budget, this is not too bad, right? So, because there's been a partial government shutdown, there's not really hasn't been kind of normal appropriations processes at the federal level. So, we're expecting the president's next year budget in the next few weeks. Um, and National was really kind of, wanted to remind everyone that Congress rejected most of the 2026 budget, even though it took a long time. So we originally thought that we might pursue a certain kind of path to shore up, certain kinds of right student lending. It ended up getting resolved right through the process of kind of, they just Congress was not happy with that budget. So it took a really long time. As of January, most of it was actually rejected. And, you know, National wanted a reminder to remind everyone that what we do matters, right? Because a lot of the advocacy against the budget cuts were worthwhile, and that budget was rejected. So as soon as the 2027 budget comes out, we'll start the process again. And the process will probably be much like this year and stretch out, and especially because there are midterms. So it's unlikely that we'll have a full kind of budget, and we'll have a continuing resolution until after the election in the fall. But to keep a lookout for that because that's going to start in the next couple weeks. The next topic, voting rights and voter suppression. So here we've talked a bit about the SAVE Act. We've done some outreach, 2-minute activists, right? And so the SAVE Act has and AAUW national support of it has created a lot of kind of attention, especially on AAUW's Facebook page. National is happy to report that they now have trolls. I don't know if that's a good thing, but it can be a good thing, right? It means that you are actually getting the word out there and making a difference when you start to get trolls, even though that kind of sucks. But there are a lot of trolls, but one thing that has become apparent from what's happening on the social media spaces is that a lot of people are still really confused about what the SAVE Act is, probably also because there are these different iterations of it. The SAVE Act, the Save America Act, Make Elections Great Again, right? The executive order that was that Monday? What is time? I don't know. But there are a lot of different iterations of this, including attempts to go through the courts, and which are not working very well either. But so one thing I think that where national is going to focus on, and that we can focus on at the state level, is making sure to continually kind of push out education around what the SAVE Act is, what these different things are, what they do, who they impact. So, Amy, I didn't hear much about National talking about that specific, that as a campaign, but it is on, they will continue to push out active action alerts, and they have a nice voter guide that has some of this information in it. And that's something that we can continue to do in thinking about public ed to at least clarify what it is and what its impacts are. But it's likely that at least one of these will move forward, or some part will move forward. such as states handing over voter rolls, new ID requirements at different states. I don't anticipate any of this making its way through the system in California, but nationwide. And, key tactics, right? Continue what we're doing with educational, legal, and political pathways. Um, Keep framing it as a poll tax. Keep reaching out to legislators when votes come up. And something I always remind everyone is to keep an eye on how all of the different kinds of anti-trans legislation create pathways for new forms of ID regulation. Because um, when you take away the IDs of trans people immediately overnight without any oversight, you're creating a pathway to do the same for other people. So that's, again, California, we're doing okay right now here, but this is thinking about it nationally and what you might hear from national. Any questions or comments about either of those issues?
Missy, could you just talk about some of the points in the SAVE Act? My understanding is they want to outlaw mail-in ballots completely. Is that correct?
Oh, we don't like those at all.
Well, I got a message from, I guess it was, I don't know if it was from National, or it's probably from National, that said vote no on it. And they said it's a show me your citizenship papers bill. And the reason I'm concerned is I've just written a little speech for tomorrow's Humboldt meeting of AAUW, and I'm talking about this issue. Um, and then, of course, the worst part of it is this business of states having to mail their voter rolls into the federal government. So, can can you maybe make some points that you think people should recognize about the SAVE Act?
Well, I think so they the biggest point, if you're speaking to rooms full of women, I think, um, is that any type of document requirement under all of these, right, they're based on citizenship. And right, that's what it sounds like on its face. But in reality, when it's about citizenship, that means that you have to go find all of your paperwork.
And
And that
pay for
often
it.
and pay for it, right? That's the poll tax, right? It costs a lot of money and a lot of time, especially if, as is tradition in the United States, that a married woman changes her name. And so simply having all of the documentation that you have already might not be good enough, right? You might have to go find original birth certificates. You might have to go get a passport, right? And have that passport be approved if you don't yet have a passport. Your real ID isn't going to be enough. So that's kind of when you're talking to rooms full of married women in particular, that's probably the time, the cost, and the possibility that you can be now, if they take the voter rolls, eradicated from those rolls because the name that is on those rolls might not match the name that you had at birth, right?
Yeah, that was one of the statements I made, is that married women have to match their birth name with their married name, which
Mm-hmm.
could be quite a lot of people. I mean, even in my family, I remember one of my members of my family, the courthouse burned down and there was no record of his birth. He even had trouble getting a social security card. And this is really going to be bad out in rural areas, and people that are far away from election divisions or ability to get all of these documents. It's just crazy. Yeah.
Correct. And that's the big point. It's also if you are a victim of a natural disaster, which we've seen more and more of,
Oh
flood,
gosh, yes.
right? Hurricanes, tornadoes. This was a huge problem after Katrina, right? People couldn't get their original documentation.
Mhm.
And so we're seeing increased natural disasters at the same time, right? That creates another level. And the SAVE Act, I think that's the point to focus on. The mail-in voting is obviously the And that's not in all iterations, if I'm remembering correctly, but was in the later iterations, is specifically the attack on mail-in voting. Um, but that that is another scary one. They just lost in court on that one, or was that the one that was heard this week? I can't
It was
remember.
heard this week. It did not go well, but there's no opinion
No
yet.
opinion yet. Okay.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Yeah, so basically it's a prove you're a citizen, even if you voted in a district your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Correct.
no,
that
the
was it.
mail-in voting wasn't this week. It was birthright citizenship, which is
Okay,
related. Sorry.
okay, okay.
Yep, birthright. But there was a mail-in voting case. I can't remember. Sorry, I'm getting like too many. But there was a mail-in
Yeah,
voting,
okay,
and I'll find that when I turn it over to Amy,
okay.
unless
Thank,
Kathy already knows what I'm trying to get at and is going to magically tell everyone. But if not, that's okay, Kathy, tell us.
thank you.
Well, none of us have all the answers because it changes so frequently, but he had mail-in voting has more to do with the executive order. He has issued an executive order to obliterate mail-in voting on all federal elections in all states. So it's obviously going to be challenged. I don't think anything's been filed yet because it just came out uh, like within the end of last week, I think, or earlier this week. And it's it should not succeed because he doesn't have any authority over state elections. But the way they have framed it is that it only will only apply to federal elections, but it still goes to how elections are carried out in each state, and that authority is given explicitly to Congress in the Constitution. So he should not prevail on that. But that's the latest. That's the thing. The only thing mail mail-in voting, a challenge to mail-in voting is not part of the SAVE Act. That's a separate thing that he is trying to do by executive order.
And Rob Bonta joined 23 other attorneys general and the governor of Pennsylvania in filing a lawsuit against that executive order today.
Yeah,
Okay.
I dropped that in the chat. There
Yeah.
was there was another case, I think it was Mississippi, that the court was specifically heard a challenge to ballots being, they want to throw out ballots that are postmarked day of but counted after. And that oral argument didn't go well either because they were like, well, if it's only day of voting, then like, does that mean you can't do early voting either? Right. So there was an attempt to do this through the judicial system, and that has not gone well, which is when Trump issued the executive order to try to do it another way. So this is a theme where it's like kind of playing whack-a-mole. If it doesn't work through a legislative pathway, we might try a judicial pathway. If it doesn't work that way, we might try a executive order, which is, you know, not a law. Right.
Because this is so complicated, though, if you're contacting your legislators, best to say protect voting rights in all of its forms because nobody can follow all this stuff. It's crazy. So having a generic request to your legislator to protect voting rights is what the normal person might do in order to avoid having to go down all these rat holes.
Yeah, and this is also why national and then part of us working on, right, the primaries and get out the vote is like giving you the language and the information so that you know, every single person doesn't need to parse this, but it's also why I think National is seeing on their own Facebook pages this like mass confusion over this stuff because it's a tactic of any authoritarian system to make people confused and to overwhelm them with media. So, um, it, so that is, and that will definitely be part of our, you know, we've been doing something with Get Out the Vote for the past few years with thinking about voting and voter suppression. So this is on our radar here too, and more coming from national and from us on language around this. All right. Okay. So from national, just a note, right, that they're keeping an eye on the anti-trans bills as well as riders on any federal legislation that is moving, as if any is moving, but federal legislation that is moving riders on bills, in part, right, because exactly, what I noted before, right, that one of the things about trans IDs, right, or IDs that trans people have is that it kind of lays the groundwork for those SAVE Act things because, we're going to take your ID and you can't vote because the name on your ID doesn't match the name on your birth certificate. Um, Nationals keeping an eye on this kind of stuff too. This week they noted that the Smithsonian Women's Museum is going to try to box out trans women. So AAUW has been a strong supporter of the Smithsonian, and I think they brought it up because they were quite dismayed that this is going to have to be a new kind of pathway. Um, there's another organization I'm involved with that is doing a lot of this work too, is trying to preserve like actual historical fact in some of those kinds of cultural centers. But so that's what's going on there. So box out trans women means that they're trying to make the Smithsonian Women's Museum no longer represent trans women, right? No trans women. That's what box out means, right? To remove them from the museum. Kind of like, you know, they're doing this all over. They removed trans people from the monument at Stonewall. They removed the history of slavery from I can't remember what it was in Philadelphia. So they're basically just removing certain histories from our national monuments, from our museums. And this is one place that they are removing trans women from this space. Kathy?
Can we just make it very clear that in your parentheses here, AUW isn't a strong supporter of boxing out transgender women. We're a
No,
strong
sorry.
supporter of the Women's Museum.
No, of the Women's Museum and keeping trans women in the museum. Yes. Um, the AAUW National is very worried about this removal of trans women because that they've been a strong supporter throughout of the museum. All right, Department of Ed. So um, some updates. AAUW National co-led a letter to the department here, basically um, critiquing the Office of Civil Rights from protecting students from sexual violence and discrimination, and urging them to recommit to Title IX. If you are on the slides, and I can find the slides too and drop that in the chat of a copy of the letter. But that is one thing that National has been working on. And I have too many tabs, so can't find where that one went. So I'll have to drop that in a bit. So the Department of Ed also, if you remember, we've been asking you to comment on potential rule changes. So the Department of Ed finalized some of the rules that we pushed out back against last year. Anti-DEI rules. We slowed them down a little and created, a pathway for legal challenge. But in the interim, they have finalized those rules. That is not a win. We also know we'll get caps on grad student loans. The rules are supposed to go into effect July 1st. So they're going to come out soon. It will be hard to overturn it because of the process of rule changes, but that doesn't mean that there won't be a challenge, but that is just something to note, something else that will come up. GSA, or the General Services Administration, is also, this is kind of the next potential pathway, is being leveraged to change accreditation. So accrediting is just another pathway for regulation. And this is for schools, professional organizations. April, May is a rulemaking process. In the fall, AAUW National is going to be really hyper focused on accreditation because this will be another kind of pathway to try to um, basically impose the anti-DEI agenda that the administration has. And again, this all of this kind of pivoting is because of losses in the courts, right? The entire Dear Colleague letter that tried to push, right, educational institutions to,
Oh, you're muted
um,
there.
so all of the Dear Colleague letter that tried to get um, educational institutions to jettison their anti-DEI and anti-discrimination policies was rescinded earlier this year because of a number of challenges and losses. And so these rulemaking pathways, this accreditation pathway, the student loan pathways are different pathways to attempt to implement that agenda since it is losing in the courts. So we're kind of playing whack-a-mole. The AAUW National is playing whack-a-mole. But that's also why you're getting different requests from us that seem almost strange, like, hey, can you go comment on this Department of Energy rule, right? Or like now you have to learn more about the General Services Administration. So we're trying to give you the information, National's trying to give you the information that you need to be able to help with our response, but that is kind of where that stands right now. So I'll pause. Any questions or comments about that? Oh boy, are we almost to the good stuff yet, Amy? So close.
Yes, I think we're ready for that.
Okay. All right. I think we have one more slide of not good, or at least watch this. Okay. Okay. So these are just cases that are at the Supreme Court right now. And noting some losses. So there was a case about conversion therapy in Colorado and laws again for medical professionals that do talk therapy to not impose their own agenda as a best practice for talk therapy, including not telling patients who don't want to convert, right? Convert from being gay to not being gay. So how do you, right? How do you regulate that? Colorado had a ban on professionals doing that. It lost in the court to a First Amendment challenge saying that the religious liberty and viewpoint of the talk therapist should not be challenged in this way or was trod upon by this professional regulation. It was an 8-1 decision. It came down on Transgender Day of Visibility, which to me sounded very I'm like the decision came down in March and it came down on Trans Day of Visibility. So I don't know timing. But that is the first case. If you want to read or listen to more about it, I can give you some really good podcasts. Um, the voting rights case that is listed here. AAUW National is watching it. Usually the bigger cases tend to be decided in June, but looks like we're getting some bigger cases being decided earlier. So they're watching this case. This is whether or not the Voting Rights Act is going to continue to hold for racial discrimination in certain places. So that case is up, has been heard, and will be decided by June. And the Hecox versus Little and BPJ versus West Virginia are also will be decided by June. These are trans rights athletics cases. And AAUW is a sign-on to an amicus brief, which is basically a friend of the court brief that becomes part of the legal filings in the case that are used to decide the case. So AAUW is a sign-on in favor of or in support of the trans athletes in these cases. So, any questions about that? Can we get to the good stuff?
Jesus.
I,
It's just so much bad news.
I know.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you want me here? Let me give you good stuff. Let me give you good stuff. Okay. So, National dropped their 2026 voter guide, and it is a beautiful and very helpful document. It is fantastic. They focused on three bucket areas: education, economic security, and social justice and civil rights. And so earlier when we were talking about the SAVE Act, right, they have a whole section on voting rights. So they've already provided some language. So there's a link to the voter guide in here, and I would encourage you to look through it. It's just really well done. So they already use, right, what AAUW stands for language. That's what we encourage you to use in the state level too in our PPPs, right? Thinking about how it aligns with our public policy priorities. And it includes questions to ask candidates, which is, I think, a really nice addition for not just having the information, but also thinking about how you can use it in different ways. So take a gander. One thing that is both helpful and slightly annoying is that there are no page numbers. Right? Now, why did they do that? They did that so that you could take any section and print it out as an individual kind of handout. So without it having page numbers on it. It makes it a little more challenging to, right, direct people, which is why I didn't say go to the voting rights section on page whatever, right? But it was intentional. So just note that that is right a potential like annoyance, but they did it for a reason. If you want to attend the kickoff webinar on April 14th, then they'll focus a bit on the guide, but it's entitled From Issues That Matter to Actions That Count. So it is an introduction to the guide itself. We'll kind of do a deeper dive into the sections, and it'll also focus on community engagement tactics. So how can you use it? How can you engage locally? How can you do something with this that is meaningful? The registration is here. And there's also a Title IX webinar coming up, Defending Civil Rights in Education, on April 23rd, 2:30 Eastern. The registration is here. And a reminder to you and everyone else, you can share these broadly. These are not just for AAUW members, and that's particularly useful and important as these topics are obviously of interest to a lot of people. And another way to engage so that you yourself don't have to create a potential presentation, right, is also to invite other people to come to these webinars if they're outside of AAUW to learn more about things like voting rights or Title IX and civil rights in education. Questions? Comments? I won't say concerns. We have many concerns. We have many concerns. All right. Then in March, the AAUW National also released the gender pay gap data. So they released the full report, and it's really comprehensive. This one is like really, really good. So it's a comprehensive view of pay equity state by state. They use the most recent census data. They like their voting report. It gives action, right, and actionable steps. I think it's really well done. They also have state-specific two-pagers with data on the pay gap by district. I believe that we sent some of the district level stuff out already, but these are really great, especially if you are speaking with representatives in a particular district. Um, then, take your PPP cards and your pay gap data with you, right? It's another nice handout and a nice opening to having conversations about what's happening district by district. March 11th, AAUW hosted a webinar about it. But don't worry if you missed it. There's a recording, and we've linked you to the recording. And Claire wrote a wonderful article in the last issue of PP News. So we linked you back to that too, because these are all great resources for pay equity and pay equity data. And, you know, um, to the point that was raised earlier, right, with EEOC being what it is, and it's kind of at the helm, and knowing that there might still be good people trying to do the work within, right, pay equity shouldn't fall off of our radar either at this moment. And I think the next slide is just a little chart. Yeah. So this was from last month's PP News. That Did I make this? I made this, didn't I? I did. It's been so long, right? So I made this, but this is just an interpretation of the pay equity data and dates for thinking about, right? We've missed equal pay day, right, as of this webinar, but all of the other equal pay days that are coming up, including way into November 19th, Native Women's Equal Pay Day. And I think, did I give all the good news now? All right, Amy, on to your good news.
Great. Thanks, Missy. All right, so we have just a few updates from state. California has set our 2026 legislative agenda. Our committee earlier this year reviewed a total of about 95 bills that were most closely related to our values and public policy priorities. We selected 34 of them together as a committee for inclusion in our legislative agenda. And those decisions were based on alignment with our public policy priorities, the urgency of the issues that they address, the likelihood of passage, and the potential to meaningfully impact things here in our state. Our top 3 priority bills are the bills that are going to receive the highest level of advocacy. That includes our input into shaping the bill language, negotiating amendments that may happen, providing testimony in committee hearings, and close coordination with stakeholders. So I think most of you are familiar with our 3 priority bills because of the work that you're doing on Lobby Day. But here they are. AB 1766 and AB 1845 are the 2 bills that we are co-sponsoring at AAUW California, both authored by Assembly Member Krell, and they are related to human trafficking, with AB 1766 calling for developmentally appropriate lessons in the curricula of children in grades K through 12 about human trafficking prevention. AB 1845 focuses on post-secondary education and requires the institutions to provide training under the Title IX umbrella of sex-based harassment, so that they are annually trained in how to recruit employees and mandatory reporters for any abuses and potential human trafficking that may be going on there at the campus. And then finally, AB 1876 is very closely related to SB 418, which was one of our A bills. Am I still sharing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. My screen changed suddenly. So AB 1876 requires health insurance providers to provide coverage for everybody, regardless of their race, color, national origin, age, disability, or sex. With sex here, including sex assigned at birth and sex characteristics such as intersex traits, pregnancy, and gender identity. So this is a bill that will strengthen protections against discrimination in healthcare coverage here in California, which is especially important now more than ever because of the federal shifts away from protections in equity, inclusion, and non-discrimination. And this bill is, like I was starting to say earlier, it's very closely related to SB 418, which was one of our A bills last year, which made it to the governor's desk, but was vetoed by him because it included a provision that would cover hormone therapy for 12 months. And he vetoed it because of cost concerns. So that hormone therapy coverage has now been removed from this bill. Are there any questions on our ledge agenda?
Can I drop the supporter thing into the chat?
Oh, yes.
So this is in this month's PP News, but this is a landing page for supporters because we're co-sponsoring. We're also doing work to get organizations on board, but also individuals. So the link in the chat, it's also in PP News, is a landing page for anybody that's interested in supporting the bills. It talks about bill text. It links you to fact sheets. It also links to social media assets that we have one set of social media assets, so things you can download and upload on your social media to share information about problems around human trafficking and the bills themselves. So feel free to share this out because we want individual supporters as well as organizational supporters. And if you have organizations that you think might be interested within your city or your county, then please share with them because we are putting together a supporters letter for the next round and to try to get us through appropriations. So thanks.
Mhm.
Right. And just a reminder that you can always see the latest progress of our legislative agenda by looking at the bill tracker, which is linked here in the top banner of the public policy page on AAUW California's website. And that bill tracker is constantly being updated by our legislative advocate to show the progress of the bills as they make it through committee hearings and move over to the other house, et cetera. Okay, so our 3 actions for the month of April are focused on human trafficking. We're putting a big focus on human trafficking this month. Please check out those 3 actions, which are detailed in the public policy news that just went out to everybody a couple of days ago. And be sure to see this great article that is part of PP News, written by Missy and Nancy Major, and that just gives you a lot of information about human trafficking. And then there are some additional things that you can do here to take action, including check. Sorry?
What's that?
Oh, okay. So you can check out the California Family Justice Network's website to see the locations of family justice centers around the state. You can go with your friends to go and visit one of those centers in support, and then learn more about the bills that we are focusing on, our 2 co-sponsored bills. Okay. Any questions on the three actions?
This three, could we download it or were we sent it? This human trafficking education and prevention card here.
So this is part of our public policy news,
Oh, okay.
which, yeah, so you can find it there. You should have received it in an email. It went out to all the public policy chairs and branch presidents, but you could also always find it on our website under
Okay.
the public policy page.
Great, thank you.
So Lobby Days is currently underway. There's a total of 192 people from 64 branches that are participating. And we're now in process of going out and meeting with 36 different Senate offices, 80 assembly offices. I'm pretty sure that almost everybody here on this call is part of this, so really appreciate everybody's participation. As you go through those visits, please don't forget to upload your Lobby Day visit report, because that's how we keep track of how your visits went and any concerns and any questions that came up in your meetings. And also, please upload a group photo of your meeting at this link here, because we're going to be putting together a photo album that's going to be featured on the website. And I'll pause here. If anybody has done some of their meetings and have stories that they would like to share, please, we'd like to hear how things have been going. Myra? Myra, you're muted.
About the Lobby Days report, are there criteria that we follow, or can you give me some guidelines for that, since I'll be submitting it?
Go look at it.
Go look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Perfect.
Yeah, Myra, on the website, where we posted all the materials, you'll find a version of that report form that you can print out to take with you to your meeting so that you can take notes on it. And then the actual visit report is linked in there, and that is a Google form that you'll just fill out and submit.
Oh, I haven't gotten there yet, but thank you for that. Now I'll know what I'm doing. Okay.
Thanks. Kathy?
So I'll just give a quick report on our really great successful meeting. I'm in Cambria, which is on the Central Coast, and our state senator is John Laird, and his district encompasses Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, and San Luis Obispo County, and a little part of Santa Barbara County. So we met with him last Friday at his office in Salinas, and we had one member from the Monterey County branch, one from the Santa Cruz branch, one from the San Luis Obispo branch, and then I'm from the California Online branch. So we had really widespread representation, and it was a wonderful visit. He just is a darling, gracious man, and gave us a full hour of his time. So it was really great. We had lots of opportunity to talk about all of our bills, and all of the members had a chance to talk about their branches and what they were doing. I gave an overview of AUW California and AUW history. And he was very, very receptive, very supportive. We talked a little bit about the budget and how, of course, that's affecting everything. But as far as our three bills, he was just totally on board with them, and it just couldn't have gone better. So we're really, for us so far, it has worked. The new system has worked out. I have a couple of Zooms still to do next week, but the only issue that we encountered, and I've explained this to Amy, is that when you're in a district like ours that is so spread out, travel becomes difficult, because we had to drive, those of us who lived in San Luis Obispo County had to drive 2 hours just to get to the meeting place, and then another 2 hours home. So if they're only going to give you 15 or 20 minutes, that's a 4-hour drive for 15-minute conversation. That's a lot. And it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of members actually our team usually originally had 7 members on it, and when they switched our meeting to Salinas, 4 of them pulled out and said, no, we're not going to make the drive. So, but there were enough of us to do it, so it worked out fine. But I'm not sure how we overcome that going forward in the future. But I think it would be interesting to hear if any of the others of you have had or have that same experience, and see if we can come up with some way to resolve that in the future. But that aside, it was a great visit.
Thanks, Kathy, for sharing. I'm so glad you had a good visit. That's wonderful. And you're right. This is the feedback I'm hearing from some of the people in the areas that are very spread out, that it becomes logistically a lot more challenging for them to travel to the district office. So I'm really eager to hear how all the reports come back. But thanks for that. Does anybody else have any stories to share from their meetings? Okay. And I know that we're early in the process. We're like a week into a 3-week period.
Amy, Vicky Reed's hand is up. She's not using her chat.
I can't figure out how to raise my hand, but we had a meeting, an online meeting with Diane Pappin's assistant. And he was in Sacramento and we're in the Mid-Peninsula area. And there were 3 or 4 of us there. And he gave us a half an hour, which was nice, and seemed very receptive and asked a lot of questions, which I thought was nice.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kathy.
Vicki?
And I think I heard that Vicky's
Yes.
hand is up.
Yes, Jerry Morrison's on board here with us today too, but we both had a very hard time scheduling meetings with the actual legislator. And so we've ended up with 2 Zoom meetings, which we didn't really want to do, but it was just so hard to schedule. We did have our first one this morning with our Dr. Weber Pearson's office assistant, and she was very gracious with us. In fact, she wants to come to a AAUW function, which was pretty neat. And she allowed us 40 minutes. But we did have that difficulty with getting to meet with the actual legislator. So I don't know if anybody else has had that problem. Anybody? Are most of you meeting with the actual legislator?
I see Susan's hand.
Hi, we met, what day is this? Friday? Tuesday, with the district director in Senator Cortese's office. And a part of the scheduling of this, it was tricky as well, in part because, strangely enough, sometimes when the legislatures are on recess, they go on vacation. I can't even imagine that. So that was the story with Cortese. But his district director was a really receptive young woman, and we had representatives from the Morgan Hill branch, Gilroy, 2 from San Jose, and Melena, who you guys know, a lobby or an intern who's from Santa Cruz. So we had a good conversation, a solid 30 minutes, and we will meet in person with Gail Pellerin next week. So we have, one with a district director and one with our actual representative. But it went really well. I have to say that the people I was doing the team leader thing, and the people who were doing the heavy lifting did a great job.
Great. Thanks, Susan. And all of you, as you do these meetings, remember to submit your visit report form. I'm really eager to see the roll-up of all of those. All right. Thank you, you guys, for sharing. Okay, Missy, back over to you.
Oh, it's just like, dude, I got all the bad news, right? I got all the bad news. All right. This is in PP News this month, but just to point out that I am the bringer of bad news. I'm writing a four-part series. I haven't seen any reporting on this, or I hadn't, and so I decided to read the 2026 Heritage Foundation report, the follow-up to Project 2025. I'm kind of breaking it apart into four pieces, and the last one is going to be kind of the policy directives that are coming out of the report. The first three pieces are like, how are they selling? The first one is how are they selling the report? The middle pieces are how they're attacking families and how they're attacking women. And the last part is what policy directives they have coming out of it. So it is just as great as Project 2025, slightly shorter. So if you would also like to read the 138 page manifesto, then there's a link here. There's a link to my Substack where I'm posting all of these, and Amy and I are planning to do a webinar on it in early October is what we're tentatively thinking because so much of Project 2025 has been implemented that I think it's important to know the policies that are being put forward in this version. It's very focused on marriage, kinship, having kids. So it goes a lot further than Project 2025. It repeats some of the points, but goes a lot further to make the case for policy-based attacks on women, including on no-fault divorce and on college education. It's don't read the whole thing. Read my bite-sized things. That might, but we'll also do a webinar. So the October date is what we're thinking. That's when Amy and I did the Project 2025 webinar in 2024. We did it right before the election, so early October. So we're thinking that date. If you all have any thoughts on the date for when we do something like this to help with or to aid or kind of get out the vote efforts and thinking about the stakes, then let us know. Otherwise, know that that is coming up in the fall.
And I'll just add that it's really interesting that right now Missy is the only person that I have heard about this new report from. But, we know how effective they were with Project 2025 and how those plans were immediately set into motion as soon as this administration came into office. So I'm anticipating that this is going to be something similar, and I'm really glad that Missy is like putting the spotlight on it right now. And I expect that we're going to start to hear more and more about this in the coming months. And you can say that you heard it here from Missy first.
Thanks, Amy. It came out in January, so I think there's just a lot going on, and so it hasn't been picked up by a lot of places yet. Myra?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Missy. I've been reading part of that, and I thought I read that part one, Have Kids or Society Will Collapse, was
Yeah.
released on March the 31st. Do you have anything about that, or is it in the main document, or?
Um, I can put a link to it in the chat. Yeah, that's my part one.
Is that
Um,
true? Is that true, though? It was released on March the 31st?
um, I think it came out on my Substack on Thursday. So it came out April 2nd, not the 31st. But that's my reporting on it. That's what I
Oh,
called it.
okay.
But
Thank
that's the premise of the report is about like all of the panic reporting on depopulation studies is what the whole report is based on. Um, any other questions? I swear one of these times I'll report on all the good things. Let me give it back to Amy to report on the good things. That's how we divided it up this time. That's Amy is the bringer of good news. I am the bringer of bad news.
Well, thank you everybody who turned out for No Kings 3.0 this last weekend. I think there were lots of you that were out there doing great things, marching, showing your commitment to protecting democracy. And if you could, um, please upload your photos from your rallies and marches at this link that's here because, like with Lobby Days, we're also going to put together a photo album of No Kings and feature that as well on the website. And like Missy wanted to make sure to remind everybody, this is a really great opportunity to hand out our AAUW California Public Policy Priority Cards, information about your branch, what you're doing, about state and national activities, and collective action. Let everybody know what you're doing and find out what other people are doing too, so that we can all collectively work together towards the goals. Missy, you want to add anything to that?
Um, no, just the these provide really great opportunities, especially if you go to the smaller marches, right? To really let people know what your branch is doing and to give people resources because protest is the first step and it's important for showing up and it's important for community building. But to really make the protest something that can help move us forward is like being able to offer those resources. And AAUW and your branches have so many, as I'm sure you have as when you go out and talk to your legislators. So, can you bring information about an upcoming branch meeting or share a webinar that National is giving so that you can, right, really get people the tools they need beyond the protest to kind of act?
Hey, upcoming webinars and events. So I think you all know about the webinar series focused on public education, put on with AAUW California and Lift Up Public Schools. Part 3 is happening on April 23rd. So if you haven't registered yet for that, please do so. That one is going to be focused on why school boards matter to everyone. And then parts 1 and 2 of that webinar series have already taken place, but they've been recorded. So if you missed them, the recordings are linked here. And we are co-hosting a candidate forum for the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. That's taking place on Saturday, April 25th at 9 a.m. So far, there are 6 of the 10 candidates that have confirmed that they're going to participate. That should be a great event to, it's an important position. And so please register. Pre-registration is required and the link is here. And then finally, we just wanted to let you know that we haven't forgotten about the conversation we had at the last peer group meeting about branch public policy leaders wanting to have more ideas and inspiration for activities and programs that other branch public policy chairs are doing. So Missy and I are talking about that. We're going to work to create some sort of a repository of ideas so that you all can feed into that and then have access to it to get inspiration for some new things that you might try. So we will have more on that by the time we meet next in June.
And before we go anyplace
Yeah.
else, I wanted to point out, Susan asked in the chat, where can we get those AAUW Equity for All posters? And I don't know if you know Amy, and if not, that's Sue Carlin's, right?
Yeah, and I think Peg is on. Peg, are you still on? Peg Carlson?
What was the question?
I think Susan was interested in the poster that you all used at your No Kings rally.
Oh, yes. And I'm wondering if I have a picture of it. we had some posters made up, just not too many of them, like 6 of them that said, if I can get this from my photos.
Oh, Amy, can you go
I don't
back?
know if you
Can
hold
you go
on.
back 2 slides, Amy? There you go. Those ones. Yeah.
So it says AAUW Equity for All. It's hard to read, sorry. Pay, education, and reproductive rights. And at the bottom, it says AAUW is an official partner in No Kings. I don't know whether partner is the right word. It probably should have been sponsor, but I know that we are affiliated. So we made 6 of these and we had about 25, maybe 30 people. So 1 in every 5 had one. And we carried those along with handmade signs.
Peg, are you able to share that image so that we could share it out with other branches?
Yeah, let me see where I have it. And yeah, and I'll send it to you guys and then you can share it.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Peg.
Sure.
Thank you, Peg. Right. Any other final questions or comments before we let you go?
Oh, forgot. We had Kathy Van Osten come speak, the legislative lobbyist, and at a program, and it went really well. And the best part of it was because I was one of the ones saying people don't want to come to a lot of mission-based stuff, and we're kind of dipping, and I'm really excited about my position, but I can't seem to get it out there to make people want to come to a lot of stuff. But we had a decent showing, but of the people who did come, we had a really incredible discussion with her. I mean, the questions went forever. People were getting engaged, and I actually had a couple people say they would help me next year. Because I'm it for public policy. I don't have a committee. So that was really, really nice to know to have happen. So she was wonderful.
Oh, that's great, Kathy. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And if nobody has anything else, I think that's a really
Uh, I just,
lovely note.
I just wanted to say something. I'm Christine Will from the Humboldt branch, and I definitely want to attend the AAUW Voter Guide webinar on the 14th. I'm new to this. Do I go into the California? Is that the California website that's presenting that? The April 14th Voter Guide
No,
webinar?
that's national. And
It's national.
yeah, and
Okay.
I can drop the link will be in the slides. I can also drop it into the chat.
Okay.
And it is they're in the midst of changing some of their registration stuff. So if you have any trouble whatsoever, you can send us an email
Okay.
because uh, they're they have one that says that you have to sign in that can be a little confusing. So if you have any trouble, just let us know.
Okay. I just also want to say that my C camp plans are going quite well, and I'm getting a group. And up here in Humboldt County, things are pretty different because we all pretty much know our council members from several cities. So I'm focusing on Eureka, and the mayor is going to be speaking to us on May 2nd. And so I've got it all planned out. We're going to attend a council meeting, and then in September we'll probably get more specific about anti-discrimination, or maybe even the focus this year on the anti-trafficking laws. So I'm really happy to do that. It's fun. Thank
Oh,
you.
that's so fantastic. We wanted to do a check-in. We're out of time, but I'm so
Okay.
glad that you shared. No, but I'm so glad you shared that. And then I will bug everybody else about it in June when we have our next meeting and see how things are going. Because it's a new program. So thank you so much, Chris.
Right. It's a little tough because we don't meet over the summer. We don't meet. I don't know if all of your groups meet during the summer, but we don't. So it was kind of a crunch to get this all going.
That's good to know, and I will find a pen right here and note that for next year because this is like we said, this is a first year program and a launch, so thinking about timing is a big thing.
Yes, I think for local activism, it is absolutely perfect. And of course,
Awesome.
it solves that travel problem too for many.
Yeah.
So it's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you
That's
so much.
wonderful. Christine and Kathy, you guys have both given us like really positive things to close out our meeting with. So thank you both.
Good. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in
Bye-bye.
June and via email.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. If you're of the whatever